NASCAR teams have some fascinating pasts and some interesting presents. Let's go through each full-time Cup Series team and explain them all. We start with the greatest NASCAR team of all time, Hendrick Motorsports. They've totaled over 300 Cup wins and 14 championships. It all started back in 1984. Jeff Bodine famously pulled off a win to save the team right before they were about to shut down, and since then they've produced an incredible number of Hall of Famers. Jeff Gordon, Terry Labonte, Jimmy Johnson, Dale Jr., and now they have two active champs in Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson. NASCAR fans tend to root for Chevrolet, and with the success that HMS has had, it's no wonder that they draw in some of the biggest fan bases in the sport. To this day, they remain dominant, and I can't remember the last time they didn't have a multi-win season, if that's ever even happened. The last time they were even in somewhat of a slump was in 2018 when Chevy was struggling to adapt to the new Camaro, and Chase Elliott still managed to win 3 races on the season. Although they're the greatest of all time when accounting for their whole history, over the past couple of decades they've often been bested by these next two teams. Joe Gibbs Racing is also really good. They've won multiple races every year for the past 28 seasons. Formed by the Hall of Fame NFL coach Joe Gibbs, the team originally started running cars from General Motors, but when Toyota stepped into the sport, they jumped ship over to the Japanese manufacturer. This move frustrated their top guy Tony Stewart, who decided he would rather leave and make his own team than have to run a Toyota. And that seems to be the sentiment among many of the fans. NASCAR is an all-American sport. Even though Toyota's NASCAR program is based in the States, many fans don't take too well to a foreign manufacturer. This is why we see some of the most unpopular drivers come from JGR, save for a few like Matt Kenseth who are just hard to dislike. That being said, many Gibbs drivers are able to pull in large fan bases to rival their haters, so it makes for them being controversial. Many would argue the villains of NASCAR. Despite having well over 200 Cup wins, they're a little behind in the championship department, only 5 to Hendrick's 14. That's a stat they'll be looking to change. The final of the current Big Three teams in NASCAR is Penske. Even though they're the oldest of the Big Three, debuting in the 70s, they didn't take off until Rusty Wallace joined the team in the 90s. Since then, it's been constant winning from the likes of Ryan Newman, Kurt Busch, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, and now Ryan Blaney. They finally landed their first title with Brad in 2012, and since 2018 have won 4 out of the last 7 championships. Many of Penske's drivers are similar to JGR's, big fan bases, big haters. Especially Kurt Busch, Keselowski, and Logano, who all have had on-track or off-track drama throughout their careers. As of recent, it seems like Penske has cracked the code for how to win the championship in the current playoff format. It feels like they spend all their time the whole season preparing for the final race at the end of the year. So even if their drivers aren't that dominant in the spring and summer months, if they can squeak through into the Final Four, they've got a fast car in Phoenix and a really good shot at the trophy. You know the system is broken when you can game it to win. Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing is probably the 4th greatest team historically that's currently in the Cup Series. They started off strong with Mark Martin in the 80s and have had great drivers over the years. Jeff Burton, Kurt Busch, Matt Kenseth, Greg Biffle, and Carl Edwards. But there's a reason this team isn't in the same tier as the Big Three. They peaked hard in the 90s and 2000s, and they fell off a cliff in the 2010s. By the time I started following NASCAR in 2015, they were a sad and pitiful team. Even a legend like Greg Biffle couldn't drag that 16 car to 5 top 10s on the year. Apart from a couple of super speedway wins and a good season from Ryan Newman in 2019, the team was essentially on life support by the time Brad Keselowski bought his stake in 2022. Over the course of that year, you could see the development, and RFK finally found their way back to victory lane by September. Since then, there's been some high highs and low lows, but the team is now top 6 or so in the Cup Series, and an incredible improvement and revival of what many of us were afraid was a dead, legendary team. We're all rooting for these guys. NASCAR's better when Roush is good. Speaking of dead, legendary teams, Richard Childress Racing feels like it might be heading that direction. Famous for taking Dale Earnhardt to 6 championships in the 80s and 90s, RCR since then has a long history of letting down their drivers. Whether it's years like 1997 where the team wasn't even fast enough for Dale to win a single race, or wasting multiple years of Kevin Harvick's prime, or now failing to provide Kyle Busch a car quick enough to win, this team simultaneously has a legacy of greatness and failure. Since the chase began in 2004, in most years RCR would count itself lucky if their cars made it in. Since Kevin Harvick left in 2013, the team's won at most a few races in a season, with 2 of their better years being 3-win seasons from Tyler Reddick and Kyle Busch in 2022 and 2023. It looked like maybe they were starting to turn a corner after these seasons, but 2024 was a reality check for these guys. It's a shame too, because they'd be a super popular team if they could just return to form. Wood Brothers Racing is the oldest team in NASCAR. Impressively, despite the team running many years only part-time and only fielding one car for their entire existence, they've got over 100 wins and are still competitive today. They've had some legends drive their cars: AJ Foyt, David Pearson, Neil Bonnet, Dale Jarrett, Bill Elliott, and more recently Ryan Blaney. They formed a technical alliance with Team Penske in 2015, and that allowed them to return to full-time racing in 2016 and run competitively, winning 3 races since then. At this point, they almost function as a Penske junior team, a spot where a 4th driver can try to prove himself good enough for one of the big team rides. A historic one-car team, very unique in the Cup Series, and one of my personal favorites for that reason. We go straight from the oldest team to one of the newest teams. 2311 is owned by Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan. The team was established in 2021, forming a technical alliance with Gibbs Racing. Despite being another alliance-reliant team, 2311 is stronger than the Wood Brothers. Tyler Reddick made the championship 4 in 2024, and the team has won a race in every year of its existence. They've quickly expanded from the single car in 2021 to now having 3 full-time cars and often a 4th part-time car. One of the reasons 2311 came into the sport was to give Toyota another team in Cup. Their numbers were dwindling with Michael Waltrip Racing, Furniture Row Racing, and Levine Family Racing all leaving the Cup Series. Those last 2 teams are interesting because they also had an alliance with JGR, but it was so expensive that it ended up forcing them to leave NASCAR, so I do wonder sometimes whether 2311 might be destined to the same fate one day. For now though, they're on an upward trend, greatly helped by Tyler Reddick carrying the team, so we'll see, maybe they can even snag a championship in the next few seasons. Reddick already won the regular season championship last year, and wouldn't be the first time a JGR Alliance team won the Cup. Trackhouse Racing was also formed in 2021 by a driver and a celebrity. Instead of Denny Hamlin, it was Justin Marks, and instead of Michael Jordan, it was Pitbull, although Pitbull pulled out of the team in early 2025. The team performed okay in their first season with just Daniel Suarez driving the 99 car, but after buying out Chip Ganassi Racing in the following offseason and expanding to 2 cars, they had a great 3-win season in 2022 with a championship 4 appearance from Ross Chastain. They also stumbled their way into Shane Van Gisbergen, an incredible road course racer who won in his first ever race and now drives their 3rd full-time car. With the speed that Chastain's had and the help of SVG, Trackhouse might be the 4th best team in Cup after the Big 3 right now. It's debatable between them, 2311, and RFK. Legacy Motor Club is a hodgepodge of owners that have come together to run a Cup team. The team's origin can be traced back to Petty Enterprises and Evernham Motorsports, who merged into Richard Petty Motorsports in 2009. Then at the end of 2021, it was bought into by GMS Racing's owners to become Petty GMS. Then Jimmy Johnson bought an interest and the team received its current name. I hope you wrote all that down, it'll be on the test. Basically, all you have to know is that over the past 5 years or so, the 43 car has gone from one of the slowest in NASCAR to actually being pretty competitive in the midfield, even landing a win on raw speed at Darlington in 2022. Eric Jones has been really solid for the team, and now John Hunter Nemechek is performing well too. While they're not quite living up to the same levels of success that their owners had, Legacy might be trending in the right direction. Although, to be fair, we felt this way after their win a few years ago, and they went on to regress in the following years. Haas is a sad shell of what it used to be. At one point a Cup Series powerhouse, with all 4 cars in the round of 8 in 2018, and 2 championships in the 2010s, Haas is what remains after Tony Stewart pulled out of the team and the sport altogether, seemingly due to his waning interest and infrequent involvement as an owner. That lack of involvement seems to be what caused the downfall of SHR in the 2020s, and left it now with just 1 car and a new banner, Haas Factory Team. And so far they've been pretty bad under this new name, with only a single top 10 over halfway through the season. Maybe you can argue Cole Custer is holding them back? I don't know, I'm just trying to find any kind of copium for them. Formerly JTG Daugherty Racing, this team is partly owned by former NBA star Brad Daugherty. They've consistently been a midfield team and have bounced back and forth from fielding 1 car to 2 cars. One thing this team does well is hire specialists to drive for them. Between AJ Allmendinger's road course skill and Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s drafting ability, they've been able to snag 3 wins since 2014, including a Daytona 500. I gotta be honest though, I'm still not a huge fan of the name change. I'm just gonna continue to call them JTG. Spire is one of the most fascinating teams in NASCAR right now. They originally started as a strictly business operation with no intention of actually competing or improving, just there to churn laps and get a paycheck. But that all changed when they won at Daytona in 2019 in a weather-affected race. From that point forward, they've slowly and steadily gotten better and better, to the point where now they're capable of competing for wins on pure speed on occasion. They landed their first couple of poles earlier this season, and that first win on pace might be coming soon with the likes of Carson Hocevar and Michael McDowell already having chances to win this year. Spire's a really fun underdog team to root for, and I hope they can continue on their trajectory. Kaulig is also a pretty new team. Starting in 2016 in the Xfinity Series, their success down there, starting with a Ross Chastain Daytona win in a one-off race in 2019, helped them to move up to Cup and land their first win in 2021, and start full-time racing with 2 cars in 2022. Yes, you heard that right, they won before they even went full-time. Despite having a couple of road course wins thanks to AJ Allmendinger, the team has definitely struggled, finishing well over half their races outside the top 20 in 2024. For a team that's been so consistently strong in Xfinity over the past 6 years, they definitely should have higher hopes in Cup. They brought AJ Allmendinger back up to Cup full-time this year, which is already helping. He has 4 top 10s on ovals, including a 4th place at the Coke 600. Kaulig will definitely be looking to become playoff contenders in the coming years. Front Row in the 2010s was a huge backmarker team. The way I always viewed them was that they were the slowest team in NASCAR that could keep up with the lead pack at Daytona and Talladega. Other teams like Starcom Racing and Rick Ware would just be so slow that they would lose the draft and get lapped, or they just weren't fast enough to win. But FRM was just quick enough to have a shot at the drafting tracks, and that enabled them to score a 1-2 finish at Talladega in 2013. Everywhere else, though, was terrible. They'd be very lucky to sneak into the top 20. That started to change in the late 2010s, after they made the playoffs in 2016 thanks to Chris Buescher winning at Pocono with the help of some weather. And especially once Michael McDowell came into the 34 car in 2018, the team ramped up from rare top 20s to scoring top 20s half the time, to scoring top 10s, to winning the Daytona 500 in 2021. And in 2022, Michael McDowell scored 12 top 10s on the year, absolutely unfathomable to the team a few years prior. Even some drivers in Hendrick equipment can't score 12 top 10s in a season. Nowadays, nobody really bats an eye if Front Row Motorsports is running top 20 or even top 10, a true testament to how much that team has improved. Rick Ware Racing is essentially Front Row Motorsports if they didn't improve, but worse. All this team does is fill up spots on the track and field the owner's son as a driver. They did have one decent season in 2024. Between Justin Haley and Corey LaJoie, the team had its best year ever with a whopping 2 top 10s. To be fair, they also had 14 top 20s, way more than they'd had in any other season, but still not exactly anything to write home about. The team did get bought out by a new owner recently, who said he plans to expand, but if you read into his words, you'll notice that it sounds like he's just trying to hold the charters and wait for them to increase in value so he can sell them. So that's every full-time NASCAR Cup Series team explained. If you like what I'm doing here, check out my gaming channel as well. Thanks for watching, everyone.